pain, with no medical capabilities, with hospitals being bombed, where I watched doctors treating injuries among children, among women, even those who were pregnant without anesthesia. And it's not, I always ask myself, why is the world so silent? And I think I really know why. Because people don't understand, they don't comprehend what it means. These are not just words. You need to think about it, you need to feel it. You need to put yourself in our shoes in order to feel our suffering, in order to comprehend the amount of suffering that Palestinians go through each and every day. There are thousands of children in Gaza today who have lost their entire families. And they're still living under the relentless bombardment. They are displaced from area to another. In 3 months, when I was in Gaza with my family, I was displaced for 6 times. And I thought it was a lot. Because every single time I went from place to another, it was another heartbreak. It was another goodbye. It was losing little of what you carried with you in the first place. Until you eventually have nothing but your dignity to carry in your heart. But it's only been 3 months for me. While it has been going on and hasn't finished until this day for over 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. Sometimes I feel that I want to call and I want to text my friends, my neighbors, and my colleagues in Gaza, my family in Gaza, and I can't anymore. Because I can't ask that ridiculous question, how are you doing? How are they doing? They're lucky if they are alive. Or they're lucky for us because they're still alive. But for them, being alive in such a dire situation is a catastrophe. The starvation, let me tell you about the starvation. Can you imagine being a parent, a father or a mother, watching your children cry of hunger and not being able to provide them anything to eat? I know what that means. I once had an interview with a British colleague of mine, and he asked me, Yumna, what are you doing? And I said, I've been looking for bread all morning, and my husband has been out looking for bread all morning for our children, and we can't find any. And I'm talking to him, and my husband comes in, and he has 2 cups of energy biscuit that was distributed in the aid. And it was already 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And this was the first meal that my children were able to have. This is just an example of what it means for your children to be hungry and you're not able to provide them anything. Same is for the water. When I moved to the south the first time, in what we called as the Nakba of 2023, in the first displacement orders made by the Israeli military, our children alive. We wanted to keep them safe. So we heeded to those orders and we moved to the south of Wadi Gaza, that's in the central and southern part of Gaza Strip. But the bombardments didn't stop. It was a lie when they said those are safe zones. The bombs continued to rain over our heads. There was no water, there was no food. We were crammed, families together, in small apartments, in shops, in whatever place that we could call a shelter. And days passed, and the bombs never stopped. And then I decided to take the decision of going back to my apartment in Gaza. It was still not destroyed. Everyone was against the decision and told me it's too dangerous. What are you doing? And I said, how is it more dangerous than it is here in the south? At least I guarantee to die in dignity, in privacy, in my home, with my family. The only thing I thought about at that time was I didn't want my children to die of thirst. I wanted them to die of bombs like other children. In Gaza, you choose between the options of death. Because Israel has made those options far too many. If the bombs don't kill you, you will die because there is no medication, because there are no hospitals to treat you, because there is no water for you to drink, or there is no food for you to eat, or by the contagious diseases that have eaten up young and old. There are many, many ways to be killed in Gaza. But our pain is that we're fighting all this on our own. That the entire world is watching our children like our blood is worthless. When this entire world knows, and the entire Middle East region knows, that Palestine is a shield against the Israeli occupation, a protection for all the other countries of the region. But we have bled, and our blood has soaked the earth for far too long. And we need this to stop. Because it is not just about the genocide, it's not just about 2 years of genocide. Look back at the past 18 years of a stifling Israeli siege on the Gaza Strip, where the Gaza Strip was called an open-air prison, where 2.3 million people were besieged by air, by land, and by sea. We were not able to travel. We were not able to seek treatment. We suffered collective punishment for far too long, to the point where they even punished our children by depriving them from chocolate, pasta, and soda. Because to the Israeli government and to the Israeli army, these are dual-use goods. You know what dual-use goods mean? It means it's used for humanitarian or human use, but could be used in military purposes. A stamp that forbids over 300 kinds of goods from entering the Gaza Strip. just to dehumanize their people. Today, we're around the world speaking to the people of the world because for the first time we see that there is an awareness among the people of the world, and this is very important. We need your voices to shake the silence of your governments to end this genocide. We need your solidarity and your protests to end the falling of the bombs on our children. And we need your support to rebuild all the destruction in our lands. We rebuild from the ashes, and we've been rebuilding for the past 77 years. Otherwise, we wouldn't have existed here today. But we're too tired. We have paid very heavy prices, and we can't go on without your help, the people's help. Because you are the majority, and you are capable, if you believe in yourself, in changing those minority in power to take action and to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you for that heart-wrenching speech. I call on Jamila to once again give us a short prologue.
My apologies for the sound earlier. I hope we're able to fix it now. So this next piece is really a desperate attempt to make the world care. And since clearly the leaders in power do not care about Palestinians in particular, but black and brown people in general, I wrote this piece from the perspective of a missile, right? So the idea was like, maybe if the weapon itself is speaking, someone will listen. I never wanted this. I never wanted to be born. I am a missile in a genocide, despising my own cause. Despising my cause, despising this world. With explosives for a heart, with fuel in my veins, my every body part precision, I cannot fail you when you aim. You who fire me from my launcher's gaping mouth, while you are stationed miles away, unharmed by my debris. You call me smart, infuse my brain with intel gathered by your drones, install a guidance system that cannot make me miss my target. And yet, I know nothing of the places I destroy. I know nothing, nothing. Nothing, 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 nothing of the withering of dreams, the splintering of grief, the flickering of rage, the quiver of the cage, all of it gets swallowed by the crater that I leave. You have cursed me with a death that multiplies. You have cursed me into a mission that isn't mine. You who built my rocket, you who pressed my button, and worst of all, you and you and you and you and you who just keep watching, you who build me, you who export me, you who fund me, you who ignore me, you who support me, you who keep silent, you who sleep peacefully at night, you land of the free that drops death on the unfree, and you land of never again, but too blinded by your guilt, enabling again when it happens in the present. Enabling again, enabling again, enabling again, enabling again in the present. Sometimes I wish myself upon you all, blazing in my pain. searching for a way to use my blast for justice and blow up in your face. But I know how hatred feels. I know how much it takes from you and me and all of us, this ground that we must share. So more than anything, anything in these burning skies, I want to wipe out the vision of genocide in your eyes. It takes you and me and all of us. It takes you and me and all of us. It takes you and me and all of us. It takes you and me and all of us. It takes you and me and all of us. It takes you and me and all of us.
Thank you, Jamila. Our next esteemed speaker will be Dr. Mustafa, a Palestinian physician, activist, and politician who serves as the General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative, also known as Al-Mubadara, and head of the Palestinian Medical Relief Society. He has been a member of the Palestinian Legislative Council since 2006 and is also a member of the Palestinian Liberation Organization's Central Council. In 2007, Dr. Barghouti was Minister of Information in the Palestinian Unity Government. He is an advocate of the use of non-violence and civil disobedience to confront Israel's illegal occupation of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. Please welcome Dr. Barghouti.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I thank you all for your presence today and for your solidarity and support to Palestine. When you arrive to this place, you need no explanation. I mean, the posters, the photos, everything show that the hearts of the people here are all with Palestine. So thank you so much. We've been struggling as people for 100 years now. We've been struggling first against British colonialism, then against the theft of our land by the Zionist movement, and then against the system of ethnic cleansing which Israel conducted 77 years ago when they forced 70% of the Palestinian people out of their land, becoming refugees. And something that not everybody knows, that 70% of the population of Gaza are refugees who were displaced already in 1948 by Israel. In 1948, just to show you that this destruction that Israel is doing now in the West Bank and Gaza is not new. In 1948, they demolished and erased to the ground 523 Palestinian communities. We've been struggling against occupation of the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem, which has become the longest occupation in modern history. And we've been struggling against the system of oppression and racial discrimination. I would not be exaggerating if I tell you that the racial discrimination we are subjected to is even worse than the racial discrimination you were subjected to in South Africa. But today, they've crossed all the red lines. They've crossed all the red lines, behaving in a much worse way than even fascists did in the Second World War. And I always say, those who were silent about the Holocaust that happened in the 40s by the Nazis are the same cowards that are silent today about the Holocaust that is happening in Gaza, because what is happening in Gaza is no less than a Holocaust. They've already killed or injured 11% of the population of Gaza. Can you imagine what does that mean? 11%. Apply it here to South Africa, you will be talking about 6 million people killed or injured in the course of 2 years. Apply it to the United States of President Trump, Mr. Trump, and you will be talking about 33 million people killed or injured. Can you imagine what the United States would have done if 1 million people were killed or injured in the United States? And yet, they keep talking only about the Israeli hostages, the 50 people. They don't mention a single word about the 14,000 Palestinian hostages in Israeli jails, including no less than 400 children, and no less than 3,600 people who are kept in jail without even trial, without legal process, and the 2,000 Palestinians from Gaza who are put in the most and worst concentration camp maybe in human history, in Slit Man. They've crossed all the lines. You're talking about 170,000 people injured and no less than 70,000 people killed, including 20,000 children. They've crossed all the lines when you have 4,000 people who had amputations. Many of them are children, and I will never stop talking about that child who was 5 years old, who had both of his hands amputated. And then he was asking his father, "Father, will my hands grow again when I grow up?" I will never stop talking about that medical doctor, a colleague of mine, who had to amputate the leg of his niece and without anesthesia, because he had to save their life, and they were under bombardment. Can you imagine the feeling of a medical doctor while he is amputating the leg of his niece without being able to provide anesthesia? This is the level of their atrocity. 90,000 children now in Gaza suffer from severe malnutrition. These are not my figures, these are the figures of UNICEF and the United Nations. And as was mentioned, people are not only subjected to bombardment, but also to a biological warfare and to a chemical warfare, because Israel has thrown no less than 160,000 tons of explosives on Gaza. More than 8 times the explosive power of the nuclear heads that were used against Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Imagine 70 kilograms of explosives for each man, woman, and child in Gaza. And now Gaza City, which is so dear to us, and it should be so dear to every person in humanity, which is 5,000 years old. How old is the United States of America? 5,000 years old Gaza is now being destroyed and demolished to the ground by this Israeli army, forcing its population out of it. And it's not only Gaza. West Bank is also subjected to terrible atrocity by the settler colonial terrorists. We are facing terrorist gangs equipped with arms by the Israeli government, attacking our communities, burning houses, burning cars, burning properties, taking away our land. Every day they violate Al-Aqsa Mosque. Every day they violate the Ibrahimi Mosque. And their goal is clear, they don't deny it. They want to demolish the Aqsa Mosque and build a Jewish temple in its place. In the last days, my organization, the Palestinian Medical Relief Society, works in West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem. We started it as volunteers. I'm still a volunteer for 45 years in this organization. We're trying to help our people. We have 80 medical teams working in the Gaza Strip, providing care to 200,000 people every month. In the last few days, they destroyed 7 of our clinics, of our health centers in the north, and 4 of them in the city of Gaza. And they don't stop. But we are not alone. For 20 years, I've been saying and writing that what happened in South Africa will happen in Palestine. That we will change the people of the world. And we have changed the people of the world. And the people of the world will change the parliaments. And the parliaments will change the governments. Will force politicians to listen. Because we know that with the exception of people like Jeremy Corbyn, most politicians look for their interests. And they know that if they are not elected in countries that have the so-called democracy, they will lose their jobs. The power of the people is now sounding everywhere. We see it in the 50 ships that are sailing now in the Freedom Flotilla, which is now sailing to Gaza. And people are not afraid of being bombarded or killed. And among them, you have people here from South Africa, like Mandy Mandela and others. They're sailing and they don't stop. We see demonstrations all over the world. The other day, they almost closed down Italy with their demonstrations. And yesterday, 60,000 people finally marched in Berlin, in Germany. The people of the world are changing. And we are just about to kick Israel out of the FIFA. And we're just about to kick Israel out of Eurovision. And we're just about to force Israel from every joint research project in Europe in the academic field. We are besieging them. They are not besieging us. We are besieging them worldwide now. Yesterday you saw Netanyahu standing in the United Nations speaking to himself, because 77 countries left the room when he started speaking. The whole Israeli media is talking about that and saying this was not only a spit on the face of Netanyahu, it was a spit on the face of Israel, which allows such a government to be ruling there. What we face, dear friends, dear brothers and sisters, what we face is not just a racist government. It's not just an occupation. It's not just an apartheid. It is a settler colonial system that have become fascist. And its behavior is a fascist behavior. And that's why we have to besiege them. They are killing our people. They are destroying our homes. They are destroying our clinics and schools. But I'm telling you, nothing in this world, neither them or their supporters anywhere, will break our will or force us to give up our struggle for freedom, we will get our freedom. Every house they have destroyed, we will rebuild. Every clinic they have destroyed, we will re-establish and rebuild. Every school they have destroyed, we will rebuild. Every house that they have destroyed, we will rebuild. And let me tell you, you more than anybody else in the world, the people of South Africa, know better than any other people of the world what is the meaning of suffering from a settler colonial system and settler colonial oppression. But you, more than any other people of the world, know also very well how can you defeat this system of settler colonialists. And we will defeat this system. There was once a fantastic Palestinian poet. His name was Tawfiq Zayyad. He was the mayor of the Palestinian city Nazareth. And he said a phrase that I always like to remember. He said, we, the Palestinian people, are not better than any other people in this world. But no other people in this world are better than us. And that's what we want to be accepted as free people, as equal people. And I tell you, we will win, we will overcome with the support and solidarity of people like you, and that day will come when we and you together will celebrate our victory. We will celebrate our victory in Jerusalem, and maybe we'll pray together in the Aqsa Mosque. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Barghouti. I hope and pray that what you said will happen, inshallah. Without further ado, I again call on Jamila. She's our go-to girl today. If you can give us another poem, please.
All right. This next piece is an attempt of a little bit of comfort, a little bit of hope, because I do think we need it despite everything, because of everything. Show me the calm in the cauldron, the mundane in the madness, the soft in the sadness, the balm on the burn, the mundane in the madness, the soft in the sadness, the calm in the cauldron, the balm on the burn, the soft in the madness, the mundane in the sadness, the calm in the cauldron, the balm on the burn. Show me, show me, show me. I've learned to trace a shade of gloom even on the brightest of days. I await the croaking of crows even amidst radiant rays. A hovering heavy upbraids our calm and sharpens from it a blade. And I ready my tough and load my guns and aim for the creatures above, but I'm afraid these shadows circling between us and the sun have grown intimate with our love. How easy to seek a partner in arms when doom persistently looms. Easier still to forget that our own shadows huddle here too. And easiest to confuse at night which ones to build altar and which ones to. Which ones to build altar and which ones to. Will you be my calm in the cauldron? My mundane in the madness, my soft in the sadness, my balm on the burn, my mundane in the madness, my soft in the sadness, my calm in the cauldron, my balm on the burn. Will you be? Will you? Here, we wake up to one-year-old gossip simmering in the kitchen. We remember the people who are missing from this table during breakfast. We drench our baklava in too much honey to drown the bleak in sweetness. We sit amidst Farsi laughter and Palestinian poems that collapse the walls into wholeness. We ridicule separation's intent by trading our views of the moon. We hug the distance so tight the night begins to swoon. We fight each fear with dreams so timeless they rise beyond the present. We love despite the vile that surrounds us, willingly, widely and wild. Willingly, widely and wild. We love despite the vile that surrounds us. We love despite. We love despite everything. We are the calm and the calm, the soft in the sadness, the mundane in the madness, the balm on the burn, the soft in the madness, the mundane in the sadness, the calm in the cauldron, the balm on the burn. We are everything.
Thank you, Jamila. Our next speaker is a well-known politician, Jeremy Bernard Corbyn. He's a British politician who has been Member of Parliament of Islington North since 1983. He's now an independent. He had been a member of the Labour Party from 1965 until what happened in 2024, where he was expelled and not allowed to stand for the Labour Party in Islington. He stood as an independent and won the vote and is a member of the Socialist Campaign Group Parliamentary Caucus. Mr. Corbyn served as the leader of the opposition and leader of the Labour Party from 2015 to 2020. He identifies ideologically as a socialist on the political left. Please welcome Mr. Corbyn.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me here today. There's so many microphones on this podium, I'm not quite sure which one I'm supposed to choose.
Use this one. These ones are roving mics.
Oh, these are for roving later on, are they? First of all, thank you again for inviting me today, and it's been wonderful doing this series of meetings with Yumna and Mustafa all around the country, and we're doing plenty more because it is important to raise the voice for the people of Palestine. But I want to say a big thank you to Jamila for the poetry we've had this afternoon, because it's important in any struggle to remember that it is more than just the political arguments. It is about the cultural message, it is about the power of song, the power of music and the power of poetry, and also to recognise the Palestinian people have a history, have a past, have a future, have a culture, have fantastic art and fantastic poetry that we also have to keep alive. During the darkest days of apartheid in South Africa, it was the songs of Miriam Makeba and others that played all around the world that did so much to inspire people to support your struggle against apartheid. In the same way, we must support all those Palestinian voices asking for our solidarity in their struggle to end the occupation of both the West Bank and Gaza. Thank you for your poetry this afternoon. And it's apposite that it should be South Africa that led the way in demanding legal action be taken against Israel for its occupation. And it's hugely relevant that it was South Africa that threw off the yoke of apartheid by the sacrifices of so many people who were killed, shot down in Soweto and other places, those that suffered decades of imprisonment, those that suffered banning orders, and all the awful legislation that went through, the Group Areas Act, and all the other things that went through, passed laws, and so on. And I remember being inspired in the anti-apartheid movement from the 1970s onwards. And to me, it was an amazing joy to come to South Africa in 1990 when Mandela had been released and the end of apartheid was in sight. And some people have said to me their actions in support of Palestine are solidarity that was shown around the world. But Mandela was right when he told us that the freedom of the people of South Africa will never be complete until the Palestinian people are also free. So we've still got work to do to ensure the Palestinian people are able to live in peace and in freedom. Like your struggle was in many ways a product of colonialism, was a product of mandate culture, was a product of occupation, and was a product of the way in which colonial masters from whichever European country they'd come always practiced divide and rule, and they still do. And it's that spirit that we have to remember in the way in which the Palestinian people are also being treated. Their country was handed over as a mandate to Britain at the end of the First World War. The Balfour Declaration was put forward, which was essentially about taking the land of Palestine to be handed over to settlers that would come in. And it was also about colonialists dividing the place up. There was something called the Sykes-Picot Agreement, a secret deal done during the First World War by Britain and France to divide up the whole area, where France would get control of Lebanon and Syria, and Britain would get Palestine. This was a secret document that was only revealed to the rest of the world 10 years later, when the Soviet Union found it in the archives of the Tsar of Russia and released it to the whole world. The Palestinian people were always treated as chattels in the colonial struggle and the colonial debate, and we should never forget that. So it is about the cultural empowerment of the Palestinian people that is so important. Ever since 1948, when the State of Israel was recognized and the Nakba took place, hundreds of thousands, probably 700,000 to 1 million people, were driven out of their homes, driven mainly, but not exclusively, into Gaza, but they also went to other places, to refugee camps in Syria, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and to a massive diaspora around the world. And in all our demands for the Palestinian people, never forget the right of return of those that live in refugee camps in all those countries. They should not be ignored in this struggle either, because they too have suffered as second-class citizens in various countries for very many years. But the diaspora, the Palestinian diaspora around the world, has become a very important political force. If you look at the results across Latin America, of the decisions of successive governments in Latin America, often inspired by the strength of the Palestinian diaspora coming together politically to make their demands on their government. And so that is why we're here, to show our solidarity and our support for the Palestinian people. The situation in Gaza and the West Bank has never been good. It's been my privilege over my life to visit 9 times to Palestine, both the West Bank and Gaza, as well as refugee camps in all the neighbouring countries. I've never felt comfortable or happy. I've always felt inspired by the spirit of resistance of the Palestinian people. But since October 23, it's been on a whole scale, a whole Richter scale of difference between what it was before and what it was now. We now have wholesale genocide against the people of Gaza. Recorded named deaths add up to, I think, 63,000. Anyone who looks at this would estimate that the number of bodies to be retrieved under the rubble more than double that particular figure. And indeed, when we held a public inquiry through the Peace and Justice Project, a Gaza tribunal, a very brilliant group of people called forensic architects from various universities came together and analysed what's happened in Gaza, analysed it in great detail. And they concluded vastly more people are hidden under that rubble, but they also concluded something to me that was quite terrifying. As these high-rise buildings in Gaza are demolished by remote-controlled explosives, so no risk whatsoever to the Israeli occupying force, none whatsoever. They send a robot in to destroy a building with high explosives, and Mustafa was absolutely right. The total volume of explosives fallen on the Gaza Strip is less than the power of the atomic bombs that fell. The atomic bombs that fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki are less than the explosive power that's fallen on Gaza. That's an understanding of how awful the situation is. And what forensic architects concluded was that Israel, when it blows these buildings up, in some cases immediately starts moving the rubble in order to be a preparation for their ludicrously named Riviera Gaza plan, including the bodies of Palestinian people. So they're going to build casinos, golf courses, restaurants, spas, health clubs, second homes, and all the rest of it on the rubble of Gaza, with the bodies of Palestinians making the foundations of those places. How much more disgusting can you get in anything, anywhere around the world, than their utter contempt for the lives of decent, ordinary Palestinian people simply trying to survive? That's why solidarity is so very, very important. The world has provided weapons and provided the wherewithal and the political cover and the diplomatic cover and all the other cover for Israel over all these years. Provided the weapons that have allowed Israel to wage war on every single one of its neighbouring countries, allowed it to bombard so many other places. Those weapons have come mainly, but not exclusively, from the USA. They've come also from Britain, from France, and most European countries. And so, our demand in solidarity in Britain is to end all arms supplies to Israel. We've been making that consistently for a very long time. And we will carry on making that demand. Some of the weapons supplies have reduced, but crucially, the component parts for the F-35 jets, 15% of which are made in Britain, are still being made in Britain, still being exported, still being assembled into the F-35, and the F-35 is still being delivered to Israel. And the F-35 is the most fearsome, dangerous fighter plane ever was, because it's a combination of fighter-bomber plane, and it's wreaked such destruction on the Gaza Strip. I'm disgusted that any part of that plane is made in my country, and I'm pleased to say that the unions that organise the workers in those factories have now voted to support those who refuse to work on the F-35 programme as an act of solidarity. It's important to raise these acts of solidarity wherever we can. But there is also the use of the Royal Air Force bases in Cyprus, at Akrotiri and Deucalion, that have been staging points for the delivery of weapons, but have also been the takeoff point for the 600 flights the Royal Air Force has mounted over Gaza. Those flights have recorded in excruciating detail everything in Gaza. I wonder why. I really wonder why. They tried to tell me it was all about freeing of hostages. I find that slightly hard to believe, how aerial photographs are going to free hostages who are apparently being held underground anyway. And so I said, well, in the case of the information that's been collected, and there are now court decisions by the International Criminal Court to issue arrest warrants for the leaders of the Israeli government, there are decisions by the International Court of Justice that acts of genocide are going on. I asked in Parliament, in the British Parliament, will all that information now be furnished to the court so that they can use it as evidence in their prosecution of Israeli war crimes? They said absolutely not. It's not going to be shared with the court at all. It's only shared with Israel. So there you have it. There you have it. The RAF actually complicit in the bombardment of Gaza. That is a disgusting thing to me to have to tell you, but also an absolute disgrace. And so our solidarity campaign will continue with all of that. I want to say thank you to South Africa for the bravery in taking the case to the International Court of Justice and for the consequences, which are routine attacks by President Trump and others on South Africa and threats of tariffs against South Africa to damage the South African economy. But South Africa has stood firm and said it stands by its legal action, it stands by its condemnation of the genocide that the people of Gaza and the Palestinians are facing at the present time. And so our tour is here to listen, to learn, and to understand what's going on. But it's also about how we undertake our solidarity. And I have been in touch with friends of mine who are on the flotilla, who are at the moment sailing in the Eastern Mediterranean, trying to deliver much-needed medicine, food, and other things to Gaza. One of them is a young man called Kieran Andre. He lives in my constituency in Islington North. I just texted him while I was on the stage here and said, Kieran, can you give me a message for this wonderful meeting that's taking place today in Polokwane? And he sent this message. Solidarity from the Global Summit Flotilla. We salute your country's efforts to bring to justice. Sorry, it's gone off again. 1 second. This phone's for you. Here we are. We salute your country's efforts to bring to justice the war criminals of the genocidal Israeli regime. I was personally compelled to join this flotilla because my 6 siblings grew up under Zionist occupation and I've suffered unimaginable violence at its hands. The world will no longer tolerate a future for the Palestinians defined by brutality and oppression. In eternal hope and solidarity, Kieran and the entire Global Summit Flotilla. Thank you, Kieran, and thank you all those that are doing all they can. And so, the next stage for us, global demonstrations, welcome the decisions made at the UN General Assembly, welcome those countries that have joined in the global campaign to end the occupation of Gaza and the West Bank, and to continue to mount campaigns to expose the Israeli occupation and its illegal brutality, and actually support those people, albeit a minority, but support those people in Israel that are also appalled by the occupation and the brutality against Palestinian people. So that means more marches and more demonstrations. We're holding a massive one in London on October the 11th. We're determined to make it the biggest ever demonstration we've ever held in support of the people of Palestine. We've been accused by some in the British media of organising marches of hate across the city of London. Marches of hate because we're standing in support of the people of Palestine. But you know what? We consider them marches of love for the people of Palestine. There are Muslims, there are Jews, there are Hindus, there are Christians, there are people of no particular faith. There's a very large block of people called Jews Against Genocide who march together alongside everybody else. It's a uniting factor in our society and in our community, and we're determined to ensure our march goes ahead, as I know all your other marches are going ahead. We had a huge event in Wembley at the Wembley Arena, concert for Palestine, absolutely massive. Many utterly brilliant speeches were made during that evening. It was an honour and a privilege to be there just to hear those speeches. But one that was very powerful to me was from Eric Cantona, a very famous footballer who used to play for Manchester United. He called for a global sporting boycott of Israel. Don't allow them to play in the World Cup. Don't allow them to play anywhere else. And I thought back to the days of our solidarity with the anti-apartheid movement, when we campaigned against the Springboks rugby tour a long time ago in 1968, when we campaigned to stop the South African apartheid cricket tour of Britain in 1970, and we ended up with a sporting boycott of South Africa. It didn't economically make a massive difference to South Africa, but it made a massive psychological difference to the apartheid regime. They felt more and more isolated. That is what we're doing, and that's what we've got to do. And so, we will all march, we will all meet, we will all demonstrate, we will all understand. And sometimes things look very difficult and very grim. When you hear what is happening to the people of Gaza, dying of starvation in sight of food, dying of wholly preventable conditions in sight of medicine, dying with no roof over their head, just trying to survive in a terrible situation. Our solidarity has to be totally with them. And when the Palestinian people are free, and they will be, it's not up to my country or any other country in the world to decide what form of government, what form of state, what form of constitution, what form of life there is in Palestine. It's up to the Palestinian people to decide that. The idea that Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, would be appointed some kind of viceroy of Gaza to organise the future would be laughable if it wasn't so tragic. I can see him now in a plumed hat, big feathers on it, sort of marching around Gaza, or being taken on a litter so he doesn't have to walk too far, as some kind of ridiculous colonial governor. No more colonial thinking by Europe. No more colonial thinking by anybody else. Solidarity with the people of Palestine to decide their own future in their own way and their own time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Corbyn. You come from the UK. We don't have gray skies normally in Polokwane, but we're blessed by the rain, so thank you. We are privileged to have Mr. Corbyn and Dr. Baruti here. These are two potential prime ministers of the two countries. So maybe in a couple of years' time, remember us. Polokwane is a small city of about 65,000 people, which is what has been eliminated in Gaza. So if you want to imagine Polokwane Central, 65,000 people, all dead, there's no more Polokwane Central, just the outlying areas of Polokwane. Everyone dead. That's what you have to imagine what has happened to Gaza. Without further ado, I call on Aslam Baba to take over the panel discussion. Thank you, Aslam.
Thank you very much. I just want to find out, we're going to have a question and answer session now. I'm going to distribute the mics.
Just one announcement. The political parties that are here and want any messages of support, please contact Zoe, who's here, and just give your name and details. Sorry about that.
No, anytime. Please come in anytime. So we're going to go through a process where you're going to ask our esteemed guests questions. We'd like you to keep the questions short and specific to the point that you want to raise. And I see you, Mr. Hassan. These questions, if you can keep them directed, and if you can ask directly to particular people, or you can put it as a general question. There are also pages and pens at the back if you want to write the question out. If you want to remain anonymous, you can do so. If you want to put your name down, you can do so as well. I'm now going to take a seat next to Mr. Corbyn, and I'm waiting for your questions, but you also need to distribute the mic to the rest.
Assalamu alaikum. myself and all of us here, we are indeed very, very proud to welcome Mr. Jeremy Corbyn as well as Dr. Mustafa. Welcome. And also budding journalist, Ms. Elsey. We really enjoyed your report on what is happening in Gaza as well as in the West Bank. Now when I walked in here, I had a look at all the photographs outside. There are one or two believers whose photographs are missing, particularly Barack Obama. And I am saddened that as an African, his picture is not there. Just to enlighten you, that same man, he stabilized Iraq, he stabilized Syria, and in his dying moments, these last 2 years, he dropped 27,000 tons of bombs in the Middle East. I just also want to say a big welcome to Dr. Mustafa. I really enjoyed your TV appearance, Dr. Barghouti, with Piers Morgan. Now many of you don't know who Piers Morgan is. He is the partner who always asks the first question, do you condemn Hamas? But he has not asked the question of America, Great Britain, or any of the European countries. The second thing I want to say about Dr. Barghouti, I really enjoyed your appearance on Piers Morgan, where you told him in no uncertain terms, shut up. And I really enjoyed that. Piers Morgan was taught a lesson, always driving the narrative of the West. The West is no longer the super hegemonic power. It is a multipolar world that we are living in. That's the first thing we must remember. When I walked in here, I had to look at that beautiful picture of that young girl. How many of us know who that young girl is? How many of us? Her name is Hind Raja. She was shot at 355 times. A little child of 6 or 7 years old, pleading for help. We are disappointed with many of our Arabic leaders, the so-called Gulf states, and one must have the BSLLS to call them out in no uncertain terms. I support Iran. I support the Houthis. I support Yemen. These are the only countries that are helping Palestinians. Nobody else.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan.
Nobody else.
Thank you.
I will be very good. There is not so much more to say, but if you need any more information, come to my garden. I'll be there waiting for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure you'll have many visitors to your garden, and we'll try and limit the questions, and please pose them as questions, but we've got written questions here for Yumna Al-Sayed. And I'm going to put 3 questions to you, and if you forget any of those, just ask me and I'll repeat them. But in order to save time, the first question is, was the first intifada initiated by women? The second one, is there a movement to fight for the release of Palestinian hostages from Israeli prisons? And the third, is there a movement specifically to fight for the release of Palestinian hostages from Israeli prisons? And the prisons. And the third one is, what happened, asking you as a journalist, what happened to the journalist who lied about the 40 babies being beheaded on October 7th?
Going to leave that answer for Dr. Mustafa because his insights on the first ignite of the Intifada will be very remarkable. Let me start with the third question because it's the most related to me as a journalist first, before we get to the second. Well, journalists who have, from the beginning of the 7th of October, the first hours of the 7th of October, and the few information that journalists had, and then following the hours to come on that day, and then the next days, and all the information that was just parroted. It was literally parroted, because no journalist, no Western or international journalist, or even Israeli journalists, of those who parroted those stories had seen anything with their eyes. They did not, because the story this time was about Israel. It was in Israel. They forgot about all forms of journalism. They forgot, basically, about how to be a journalist. The fact that a journalist is an investigator. You need to have your evidence, your proofs, before you report. You do not parrot stories according to your emotions or according to narratives that you hear by different parties. And this is exactly, unfortunately, what happened. Israel had its narrative, and many journalists, internationally, unfortunately, and Western journalists started adopting the Israeli narrative and parroting it. Some went up to the point where, and we've seen this, not just journalists, up to President Biden himself, who said that he saw pictures of beheaded babies. They spoke about babies in ovens, they spoke about raped women, they spoke about beheaded children, they spoke about all forms of unrealistic things that they mentioned. And until this day, 2 years later, there's not one evidence, there's not one picture, there's not one proof about all these Israeli claims and allegations, because simply they are lies. And many of these international and Western journalists who parroted these claims and allegations came out to say, oh, we're sorry, because they didn't expect Israel to lie to the world, and they would put themselves in such a position. As for the prisoners, or the Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons, their tragedy is a tragedy like no other, unfortunately. Palestinian prisoners, some of whom have been up to 30, 40 years, 45 years in prison. An entire lifetime lost behind bars. Their features have changed. They have no idea what has changed around them in the world, because they haven't lived anything of this world except in their tiny cells behind bars. Harassed, tortured, and deprived of their very legitimate rights as prisoners. Of all ages, We're talking about Palestinian prisoners of all ages. We're talking about children, we're talking about women, we're talking about men and elderlies. We're talking about a nation, which is Israel, a government, that is the only place in the world that has military courts for children. And those children are the Palestinian children.
Thank you.
A question to you, Dr. Barghouti. And I think we've got one of the mics for YouTube and the other mics for public broadcast, because it's live streaming. Dr. Barghouti, the question is that many countries and many states have been caught up with the idea that there ought to be a two-state solution. There are now, and there have been for a while, discussions that the two-state solution is dead, and that there should rather be a one-state solution with equal rights for all under one constitution, similar to what we have in South Africa. Otherwise, it creates and prolongs a a colonial state with an power imbalance which will remain forever. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll come there. Okay, thank you. First of all, about the question that was deferred to me about the First Intifada. The First Intifada was truly one of the brightest moments in our history. Why? Because it included a total uprising of all people, without exception. Men, women, young people, old people, everybody was engaged. And it was a golden moment because we had a unified leadership. And that unity was so powerful. All it took is to issue a small statement, a paper, that calls for a strike, for instance, and you would see all the Palestinians from Jenin in the north to Rafah in the south of Gaza doing the same thing. That was the beauty of the first uprising. It was the unity and the participation. But also it was mainly non-violent. And it showed the power of civil disobedience when people get together. And there were three principles that people followed in the First Intifada, which I always advocate, and we should adopt them now also. One is self-reliance, not waiting for others to do things for you. Second, self-organization, because without organization you cannot achieve much. And finally, defiance of your oppressor and the occupation in this case. These were the three principles of the First Intifada, and they were so successful. And of course, women were in the avant-garde. Women were in the avant-garde not only in running our educational system. When Israel closed down, you don't know that maybe, but Israel closed down our universities for 5 years. They closed down our schools. So we had to turn to house teaching. And there were occasions when you see the Israeli army coming into the houses and arresting people just because they are educating the children. They closed down roads. They closed down so many facilities. But women were not only doing educational work and medical work. Women were also in the avant-garde in demonstrations. in the front line. And when Israel arrested during the first Intifada no less than 120,000 men, you know, 120,000 is a lot when you speak about a population of less than 3 million at the time, or 4 million, yes, 3 million. Women took over the responsibility of so many things, and they did wonderful things, although some of them were also arrested. So the first Intifada was really a turning point. And excuse me for hitting on something internal now. The sad thing about the first Intifada, that after it has changed the balance of power and forced Israel to accept Palestinians and to talk to them, and made it impossible for the occupation to continue as it used to be. After that, instead of translating that into an achievement, and I bet you could have had a state at that time, the Palestinian leadership made the mistake of doing Oslo Agreement, which actually diffused the results of the first Intifada. And I say that now because after all these sacrifices we are doing in Gaza, we are living in Gaza and the West Bank, after all the bloodshed, after all the suffering, now at this moment we should not allow neither Trump nor Blair nor Netanyahu to diffuse the sacrifices of the Palestinian people and impose on us a terrible solution. Including bringing this Tony Blair. They want to bring Tony Blair. Imagine, Tony Blair, the war criminal. As one of my colleagues the other day said, the place of Tony Blair is not in Gaza or Al-Arish, where they want to put him. His place is The Hague, the ICC. And by the way, we've just received information that the United States of America, under Mr. Trump, is now planning to impose total sanctions on the International Criminal Court. They punish international law. They punish International Criminal Court. And tomorrow they will punish International Court of Justice. This is fascism. This is fascism. In the clearest possible way. You know, if they impose sanctions on ICC, these guys cannot get their salaries, you know. They cannot function, they cannot use their banks. That's exactly what they are planning. And that tells you a lot about the kind of world order we live in. So I hope they will pay them in Chinese currency. That's something that the Americans cannot control. About your comment about shut up. By the way, my wife told me after that interview, listen, you cannot say shut up. So I said to her, but I was nice. I said to him, shut up, please. About prisoners, I just wanted to add one word. I have two relatives. One of them is Nail Barghouti, who was in jail for 45 years. He has just been released in the exchange of prisoners, but they deported him to Egypt. His wife, who's a wonderful woman, a woman who struggled so much for his release and for the release of all prisoners. Her name is Aman Nafi. His wife is in Ramallah. She lives in a village called Na'lim near Ramallah. And she wanted, when they deported her husband, she hasn't seen him for 11 years. She wanted to travel to Egypt to meet him, to meet her husband. Up till now, he has been released since, I think, 6 months. Up till now, the Israeli army did not allow her to cross the Alevi bridge and go to see him. That gives you an idea about how torturous these people are. Who hold, I didn't mention that, you know, they hold up to now 552 bodies of Palestinians who were killed by the Israeli army or killed in prison. They hold them hostages, some of them since 56 years. Some of them are 33 prisoners who have been in jail, and they keep them after they died because of lack of medical treatment. They keep them hostages, they say, till they finish their term. And what would we do with their term is life sentence. This is the level. Some of them are children, 17 children. The bodies of 17 children are held. The mother of one of these children from Jenin told me, you know, all I want is just a grave to cry on, a place to have a closure. And you can see they use this as a way of torturing people. About the 2 states versus 1 state, look, in the very first place, we wanted one democratic state for everybody. That was the original slogan of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO. And we were subjected by unbelievable pressure from the Western countries and the peacemakers to accept 2-state solution. Because they said this is unrealistic, you cannot continue like that, you have to accept 2-state solution. And they convinced many Palestinian leaders that it would be a shortcut. But when they spoke about 2-state solution, they didn't speak about the borders that were designed by the United Nations in the partition plan in Resolution 181, which would give Palestinians 44%. They spoke about 22%. By the way, when the United Nations decided we should get 44%, we at that time, in 1947, we owned 82% of the land. So it was also unjust. But nevertheless, even when Palestinian Liberation Organization accepted 2-state solution, they don't want 2-state solution. And that's why we say to those countries who recognize Palestine, I will finish. When we told them, when you recognize, it's not enough to recognize Palestine. If you really mean well, impose sanctions on Israel. Because a recognition by itself changes nothing. If you want to change things, you have to impose sanctions on Israel. First, to stop the war on Gaza, to stop the genocide in Gaza, and second, to force Israel to end its occupation. At the end of the day, we as Palestinians, I personally believe that what we are fighting for is not only to end occupation, but to bring down the whole settler colonial system. And even if there is a Palestinian state in West Bank and Gaza, our people in 1948 will still be subjected to discriminatory behavior and the system of apartheid. So if we want a true solution, this whole thing must end. And that's why, of course, it's the most realistic solution. And the most just solution is one democratic state where people have equal rights like you have in South Africa. But I also know you've achieved political freedom, but you still have to struggle for economic freedom. I know the struggle is not over in South Africa. And so we know that we will not get everything immediately. But one thing you have to be understanding, we cannot be, the Palestinians, the reason for not having 2-state solution. It's the responsibility of Israel that is killing the 2-state solution by building illegal settlements and by continuing to do what they do. As people in solidarity with us, support the Palestinian people in whatever they decide. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. We're going to take questions from the floor, but before we go to that, I want to just recognize the following 4 parties that are present here, telling you that you are going to have time to give us messages of support for about 2 minutes each. That's Mike Matebe from Africa Maibuya Party, Charmaine Nell from Nkonto Wesizwe Party, Angwani Mashad from Kusatu, and Ahmed Kachiria from Strategic Dialogue Group. We recognize you, we thank you for being here, but we're going to be taking questions from the floor at this stage. Are there any parties who want to ask questions? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening. My name is Nasir Paulson. I'm a member of the Economic Freedom Fighters. Welcome, Mr. Corbyn, Ms. Al-Sayed, and it's good to see you again, Dr. Baguti. We last saw each other in Cape Town a year ago. I hope to see you there again on Tuesday night at the Tulum Civic. As well. I'm a member of the Economic Freedom Fighters. On the 21st of November 2023, we were 29 years into our democracy. And for the first time, the most concrete step was taken in solidarity with the Palestinian people. The EFF motion to expel the Israeli ambassador from South Africa was adopted overwhelmingly by the National Assembly of South Africa. So, in the founding manifesto, in the founding documents of the EFF, we've made a commitment, and we've lived up to that commitment, and will continue to live up to that commitment, that we will advocate for the total dismantling of the apartheid Israeli state and the return of all Palestinian lands. Now that's a very broad interpretation. As I said, Dr. Baguti, and you said that we have political freedom but no economic freedom. Hence, the only political party that makes sense in South Africa is the Economic Freedom Fighters, under the able leadership from a son of this very city, Julius Malema. You've met him. And as he said, when it comes to Palestine, and these can confirm, any time is a good time to call on him for the sake of Palestine. So that is the support that you will get from the Economic Freedom Fighters here in South Africa. And you missed the big march in Cape Town yesterday. Over 100,000 people marched through the streets in support of the Palestinian cause. But civil society driven, and most progressive political parties, part of it except my opinion, are still funding it. So, but God willing, if you manage to make it past that first hurdle, Mike, you may join us. But I can tell you, there are challenges ahead of you. It's not an easy path, we walk the path. But thank you very much, Corbyn. Thank you for using your voice. Thank you, Dr. Baguti. Coming from Palestine, you say, I have so much admiration for you. You are brave, you are bold, for a woman to do what you do. I met with a Palestinian woman yesterday. She said it cost her and her husband and the child $12,500 US to get out of Palestine. There's more money than there's here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I'm going to thank you, Mr. Nazir Paulson from the EFF. Here's a question for Mr. Corbyn.
For me, I would say my question or concern is to both Dr. Balozi and Corbyn. The issue here is, as Palestine is suffering the hands of the Israeli government, there is a silence from the people who are always talking about other countries. For example, if you talk about Mr. Trump, who has declared in one of his past acts in South Africa there is genocide, but is silent when it comes to the real genocide happening in Palestine. So the question would be, please enlighten me, what does Netanyahu do for Donald Trump? Or even for you and for them to be so quiet in all the wars that are happening with Palestine, with Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Corbyn, I understand the question to be that Mr. Trump and various countries in the world remain silent about the Palestinian genocide. What is it and what power does Netanyahu exercise over these governments and these leaders when they remain silent about the genocide?
Hello, can you hear me? Use that one. Thank you for the... Hello? Hello? Thank you very much for the question. I must say, at an objective level, I find it utterly extraordinary, the incredible power that the Israeli Prime Minister has over Western governments and in particular the USA. I mean, just think for a moment. Netanyahu is the subject of an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court at the present time. He's the subject of a series of court orders in Israel, and he's only exempted from going to prison, going to trial in Israel because he's the Prime Minister. Yet he seems to exercise this enormous power. And it is in part economic because of the links between a large number of Israeli companies, particularly in Britain and the United States, with industries in both those countries, but also in connection with the arms trade and the big company in Britain, known as Elbit Systems, which is a manufacturer of a lot of Israeli armed equipment, and also they import equipment from Israel to Britain and to France and to India and to other countries. And so there's a huge global arms trade which Israel is closely linked up with, and also the production of surveillance systems which are used all around the world. Through our project, the Peace and Justice Project, working with Andrew Feinstein, former member of the South African Parliament, who now lives in London and dedicates himself to campaigning on the arms trade, we produced a book called The Monstrous Anger of the Guns, which is about the power of the global arms trade. And that is not the whole answer, but it's part of the answer. But in the USA, there's always been this tradition that AIPAC, that's American Israeli Public Affairs Commission, has enormous power over US politicians. Yes, it does, but it's also a waning power. It is not the influence it once was. It's reducing a great deal. And the number of people, young people in the USA, that took part in demonstrations of Palestine over the past year, risked everything, including losing university places, I think is a factor in this. So, yes, they do have huge lobbying influence, they do have huge economic influence at the moment. But what we're doing is mounting a sanctions campaign directly. And in the case of Britain, many of the trade unions are very active in support of Palestine. And so they've been using their membership as trustees of local authority pension funds, which are often enormous investment opportunities and investment vehicles, to withdraw all investments in any company associated with Israel and any company associated with the arms trade. And there's been demonstrations by Palestinian activists in virtually every town and city in the country, outside council meetings, demanding that their local authority withdraw all investments through their pension funds. And it's working. It's had a massive effect. The previous government, the previous Conservative government, tried a piece of legislation through Parliament which would make it illegal to promote BDS, boycott, divestment and sanctions. They couldn't get it through. Then the general election came last year. And I think there are probably some people around Starmer that would like that legislation to go through. They didn't even dare introduce it into Parliament. So that is another factor that's been defeated. So there is a movement going on that is questioning the behaviour of Israel on the global stage. But anyone with half a heart, looking at the television pictures of children being killed in real time, in real live television, should recognise the only answer has to be a total boycott of Israel trade and Israel armaments as a way of bringing about freedom for the people of Palestine. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. We are running out of time. We want to give what I earlier promised is to the various political parties to be able to make statements. I said allow them 2 minutes. If it's possible, and if the various organizations can give their votes of support, in a minute will be appreciated. We're going to start with Mr. Ahmed Kacharia of the Strategic Dialogue Group. And if you could just give us, in a minute, your message of support.
I represent the Strategic Dialogue Group, who describe themselves as progressive think tank, and it is composed of student activists from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Chair, I'll rely on the established protocols if that's fine. Thank you. Comrades, friends, and colleagues, the SDG is unambiguous that in this moment of profound sorrow, we stand with the people of Palestine. We see the pain in the eyes of children, mothers, and fathers, and of those who have lost their families. The doctors and journalists who work tirelessly amidst the rubble, and poets who find words to capture the depth of this tragedy. If I must die, you must live. We mourn these lives cut short, their homes turned to dust, and their dreams shattered by a conflict that seems to have no end. The world's silence is a heavy burden, a stark testament to a monumental indifference that leaves many feeling disregarded, neglected, and overlooked. Yet, in the face of this despair, we continue to bear witness to your resilience. We hear your cries, we see your struggle, and we honor your unwavering spirit. We will not look away. We will continue to call for an end to the violence and genocide, and to stand in solidarity with all those who suffer these burdens. You are not alone. As we live to tell this tale, we often introspect to consider whether or not the Palestinian child has defied death, denied death, or defeated death. Or should we step back and say, memento mori? Chair, I'm compelled to share observations that may be considered by our esteemed panel as we close. And this should be for Comrade Mustafa. Given the international political struggles and factionalism within the Palestinian movement, from Fatah to Hamas to the Palestinian National Initiative, how does this internal dialectical relationship influence the ability of Palestinians to leverage the shifting global balances of forces from a unipolar to a multipolar world? And how do Western and Eastern powers exploit or support these internal dynamics to advance their own geopolitical interests? And then to Comrade Yumna, South Africa is grappling with unparalleled political, social, and economic crises, including high unemployment, extreme inequality, political factionalism, and corruption, and corruption within its own dominant political party. In light of the historical parallels drawn between the struggles of the people of South Africa against apartheid and the Palestinian liberation movement's cause, how can the experiences and failures of South Africa serve as a cautionary tale for Palestinian factions as they navigate their own competing relationship with that of global powers and seek to build a cohesive, unified political and economic future? And lastly, Comrade Jeremy, what does the UK and others who support the two-state solution mean in practice? Will they stop supplying arms, and will they support the state of Palestine against wars? I thank you, Chair. I apologize for the time.
We now call Angwani Mashai from Kosatu. I'm sorry that we have to cut you down on time, but it's just that we have guests who have traveled a long way. We don't want to go on too long. Thank you.
Manda. Viva Kosatu, viva. Viva. Viva Palestine, viva! Viva! Thank you very much. Thanks very much, program directors, the invited guests, the panelists up front here, Comrade Jeremy Corbyn, Comrade Mustafa Bagoti, and Comrade Sayed, Yona Sayed, organizers of this event. And from COSATU, I'm not alone, I'm with the COSATU General Secretary here, Comrade Muslim Welfare. And indeed greetings to all the delegates to this important interaction that is taking place this afternoon. As the Congress of South African Trade Unions, we appreciate the invitation to come and share perspectives in terms of what is happening in Palestine and our support as COSATU of the Palestinian struggle. We believe as COSATU that the Palestinian people have the right to self-determination like any other nation in the world. And COSATU support the Palestinian struggle to self-determination. We also, as COSATU, would want to continue to make this call that the ICC should actually implement and enforce the warrant that it has issued, if it is to remain relevant and it is to retain its integrity as a court. Because if we just have those warrants and people are continuing to kill people on a daily basis, then what is the purpose of those warrants? So we want to make a strong call that anyone whose name appears on the ICC warrant must be arrested, so that indeed we can see justice taking place. We also condemn all acts of aggression that we have seen lately, not only against the Palestinian people, but we have also seen aggression against countries like Iran, Qatar, the siege on Venezuela, the 60-year-old Cuban blockade. We are saying all those acts of aggression must stop as of now, must stop as soon as we can pressure. But we believe that for those things to stop, we must continue to put pressure on governments, like we put pressure on our own government to take Israel to the ICJ. So we must continue, as Comrade Corbyn indicated, we must continue to put pressure on government to recognize the state of Palestine, but also ensure that indeed when the state is recognized, what needs to be done then is to ensure that the United Nations resolution is implemented, because the United Nations resolution clearly indicates what must happen in terms of Palestine and what must happen in terms of the issue of the two-state solution. So we support those efforts as COSATU, and we believe that Palestinians should be able to get their land back that has been seized by the Israeli apartheid state, according to the United Nations resolution. In conclusion, comrades, we believe that this interaction is just one of the many interactions that we must go into to make sure that we keep piling up pressure on governments, on multilateral institutions like the UN and other institutions, so that the right thing can be done in relation to the issue of Palestine. COSATU will stand side by side with the Palestinians, as Nelson Mandela taught us that if the Palestinians are not free, we are not yet completely free ourselves. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mashad. Mr. Corbyn was just reminding me that in the 1980s, when COSATU was banned, Mr. Corbyn was supporting COSATU at that stage, and you know at that stage people were imprisoned, detained without trial. The next person which we're going to be calling up is Charmaine Nell from the Encontro Besizwe Party. Charmaine Nell here. I see your hand up. I'll come to you. And then Mike Matebe from Africa Maibuya Party. Okay, if you're not here, we'll take a question from you. Those who may be thinking that all the questions were not specifically read out, we combined the questions, we looked at the various questions that were posed, and there were duplications in terms of the questions, so we then consolidated them and posed them as a single question. Sorry, Mr. Mike Matebe. Okay. Charmaine from Encontro Besizwe Party.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The chairperson of MK Chameleon has got an emergency, so she is apologizing for not coming here at the front. Yeah, MK is here to stand with the people of Palestine in their struggle for freedom. We condemn the invasion of Palestine by Israel, and it's a crime against humanity. As MK, we stand with the people of Palestine. We pledge to join the people of the world in condemning the genocide. We call on the people of the world to join and support the isolation of Israel. Therefore, MK pledge to mobilize our communities to support the cause of Palestine. We say, the people of Palestine, you are not alone. The people of South Africa with you. Viva Palestine, viva.
So indeed, one of the outstanding aspects of the Palestinian struggle is the activism of its youth. And this resonates very much with us as South Africans, because indeed, as South Africans, our youth were in the forefront. I know it's late, but this is a very important part of our proceedings for today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you a young activist from Polokwane, Uthman Kala, a young heart with a big mission. At just 9 years old, Uthman Kala began showing a remarkable sense of compassion and purpose beyond his years. While many children his age were caught up in the joys of school and play, now, just 11, Uthman dedicated himself to a heartfelt mission, selling books to raise funds for Palestine. As his mom was cleaning out books and giving them away one day, Uthman asked if he could accompany his aunt with a start at a pop-up to sell those books and send the money for the children of Palestine. Wary if he would manage the event, his parents agreed to help him set up. It proved to be a great success, with many people donating funds to his cause. All the funds were thereafter donated to various organizations, and indeed Uthman at his young age was recognized by many relief organizations for his sterling efforts. He was given certificates of acknowledgement. Uthman continues to go to pop-ups regularly to sell his books and donate the funds that he earns out of the selling of those books to the struggle of Palestine. With a desire to help others, Uthman turns something simple into something meaningful. Every book he sells becomes a contribution towards relief and support for children and families in Gaza who are suffering unimaginable hardships. His efforts remind us that no act of kindness and compassion is ever too small, and that even the youngest amongst us can make a meaningful difference. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take him from strength to strength, make his work a source of relief for the people of Palestine, and write for him the reward of Sadaqah Jariyah that continues to benefit him in this world and the year after. Now, when we were organizing this event, I called Uthman and said to him, I would like us to do something where we include the children of Polokwane and ask them to give a small message of support to the children of Gaza and Palestine. And Uthman took up this task, and I want to tell you, Dr. Al-Mudi and sister, that hundreds of pages of support have come through. We've compiled them into 2 or 3 albums from the different schools. And we would like that Uthman comes up and reads a few of those messages of support. And we'd like that if you can find a small space in your suitcases when you go back and take these messages back as a message of hope and support, as a message of love from the children of Polokwane to the children of Palestine. Uthman, I'd like you to come and do a bit of a read for us. Thank you. Let's give Uthman a hand.
Assalamu alaikum and good day. This is a message from the children of Polokwane to the children of Gaza. I believe one day they will wake up to the sound of birds and not bombs. We love you and we are working with love from Face from One Orange Biscuit. I am just a kid like you. I wish I could share my toys and food with you. I hope and pray that one day soon you and I can play and freely smile without fear. You are my friends, you are always in my heart. With love from Umar Kala Orange Biscuit. We, the children of South Africa, are thinking of you every day. Your strength and faith leaves us in awe. We send you love, hope, and du'as of the best life imaginable. No matter where we are in the world, we are united by the same dream of a free Palestine. With love from me, Usman, Farah, and Enes. Dearest, precious, sweet children of Gaza, I want you to know that we see you, hear you, and feel you. You are the bravest, most resilient, fearless, and formidable children of the world. You are deeply loved and never forgotten. With love from Mustafa, Paid House Special Needs School. Your spirit shines like the brightest star. Even from across the world, we see your strength and send you all our love and dua. You are not forgotten. With love from Larissa and Alicia and Enes. I am not a Palestinian, but my heart is in Palestine. And I won't stop talking about it till Palestine is free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. With love from Maya and Huda and Enes. Dear children and people of Gaza, just remember that inshallah you will get freedom no matter what. May Allah keep you strong, happy, healthy and brave. We all know what you've been through, but inshallah it will come to an end. Just remember, Allah is always there with you. Freedom will be yours. Jazakallah.
Thank you, Mustafa. I would now like to hand over these books to Dr. Mustafa and Sister Yumna so that they can take it for us to Palestine.
Thank you.
Well, thanks. Keep on the road, man. So when we started planning this event, we really wanted to try and achieve some sort of awareness campaign. You know, we felt that you sit back and you inundated with all this WhatsApp messages and social media, what's happening out there, and sometimes you just feel like there's not much that you can do. But when the opportunity came, and to host such an event, many people had to put their heads together, and you know it would be important to then acknowledge those people that really made a difference to getting this event away. There was a few hiccups. Mr. Corbyn last week gave us a bit of a threat, and we thought it might not come, but really it all worked out. So we just want to say thank you firstly to everyone for attending. You know, it was a long afternoon, we kept you here, but I mean, this was as high level a delegation as Polokwane will ever see. Thank you to Dr. Dalruti. The last time we had you live streaming in the same venue when we spoke to you, and we were hopeful that you will make it to Polokwane. Alhamdulillah, please come back again. Sister Yumna, thank you for that heartfelt rendition. I think everybody enjoyed the passion in which you articulated the concern for what is happening. And Mr. Corbyn, once again, thank you for your attendance today. We really happy to host you. It's still an event in the evening, so we want to do our best of it.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And hopefully we will try and have other events of this nature. It's important to acknowledge the challenges that many of our people have faced all around the world. And these kind of events perhaps just broadens the mind, wants us to do something, to become activists, to make a difference. So thank you for that. To our poet Jamila, some beautiful renditions. Everybody enjoyed it thoroughly. Thanks for coming to Polokwane, and we hope to see you soon again. So I'm not going to keep you. I think some of the people have gone already to have their tea, but those of you that stayed, you actually deserve this cup of tea. Fia Manila, thank you very much, and all the best. Thank you.